What's up, my peoples? Today we're going to talk a little bit about source units. Now, for many years, we've been dealing with, stuck in the dash, big chunk of metal with some knobs on it, that you could pull that out and put some fancy new tech in there to do the same job with more controls and maybe a little better sound quality. But today, we've moved into a new realm of what's possible for a source unit for your audio entertainment. Well, audio and video at this point. What I want to talk about is a few alternatives, what you might not have considered for this type of a piece of equipment. So pretty much everybody today in 2024 is getting their media from a smartphone. So you jump in your vehicle and you connect your smartphone to your stereo and you play your favorite playlist off of your smartphone, which I don't have laying in here. Actually, I do. One of these little bricks. I think you're probably watching this video on right now. This thing right here. About 75% of you are using one of these. Another 25% are using computers and TVs. I find it very fascinating that I may be on someone's 72-inch 4K big screen TV right now. So that's cool. But I digress. So you jump in there and you take this thing and you connect it to your stereo. So let's think about that. The signal path involved in this. So you're getting a signal from somewhere else. It's going into your phone, coming out of your phone, into the stereo, going through your stereo, coming out of your stereo to possibly a DSP, going into your DSP, coming out of the DSP, into the amplifier, going in and out, finally to a speaker, and then back to your ear again. That's a lot of bases to hit, So what's necessary? Look at the stereo. What does it do? Well, essentially, it's your volume control. That's all it really is, right? I mean, if you're getting your media from here, your stereo is just a volume control. So on my particular setup, I actually have a DSP in the back. My DSP has a volume knob and a sub knob. I can literally skip the stereo completely. I can connect my smartphone straight to my DSP and control the volume with the DSP volume control. I don't even need a stereo at all. What do I use it for? Well, occasionally I like to turn the radio on, and sometimes I play tracks through my pen drive. But I don't need to. I could use this. So what alternatives are there? Well, there's this thing. This is a little NVX receiver. And it is a Bluetooth receiver with a volume knob. The volume knob is one of those temporary turn things where you turn it and it goes up, turn it again and it goes down, and you can switch to track functions and you can bump tracks with this also. This essentially can replace your entire stereo system as far as using a phone. I haven't hooked this one up yet, so I don't know just how well it actually works. However, it does require that you just make a small hole and put that in there, and then you screw the little nut up there and tighten it up, which right there, the little nut. So you stick it in the hole, and then you screw the nut on the back, and then you hook up your, your power and ground, and then your ignition wire turn on, and then you have a remote out for turning on amplifiers. And then you've got these two guys, which are kind of funky, but they're inputs or outputs. They're outputs to your amplifier. They've got a little headphone jack deal, so you'd have to have some kind of converter for that. But this would essentially send a signal to your amplifiers or to whatever. One that I have used, though, is this guy. And this is a Rockford Fosgate version, but there's many variants of this. And if you're wanting to get something like this, you would search for a marine style head unit, and you get into that area and you'll start finding these things. This one has, and it's kind of, I've been used before, so I had it glued into a install, but you make a hole, a bigger hole, a round circular deal here, and this guy slides into place, and then you get a little metal bracket, and you can attach it with these bolts to hold it in place, or you can just put some shoe glue behind it and stick it in there. It stays. That's what I did. But the functionality of it is a power button, a sub up and down, so you control your subwoofer here. Got a source button to switch between sources, which is basically Bluetooth or the auxiliary inputs. Then you got a track skip feature over here, play and pause, and brightness for lighting up the lights. And then, of course, the jog knob, which is a volume knob. And I used this for a couple of years on my big truck as my, just to connect with. And so you just Bluetooth your phone straight to it, and then Bob's your uncle. You got a volume knob and a track skip button. So all the stuff you actually need to play music. On the connection portion of this, I have forgotten some of this, so I'll have to stumble through it. Forgive me for that. But you've got front line out, so you've got 2 channels of front line out. You've got, let me get all these together. So you got a subwoofer line out, you've got an auxiliary input, and you've got a rear line out and a front line out. So that's all your RCA style connections. 2 of these are inputs, right? And then you've got a USB deal here that can charge up to 1 amp, but it'll also read off of a USB stick, so you can put your music files right here. And this is your power input. And like I said, I don't remember the exact details on the wiring because it's been a little bit since I pulled it out and put it in. But it's got all of your basic controls. This would work totally fine for someone in pretty much any situation, really. But if you were doing a build where you had, say, a classic car and you wanted to keep the classic radio in place, this would be a good option, one of many, to be able to do a stealth-mounted system, like inside of a console and an armrest, or underneath the part where you could just reach down and adjust the volume and stuff with your fingers. And I have to look. If you've got something with an overhead, like I had in my big truck where I had an overhead area and I mounted it up there so I could just reach up here and do the thing. Real easy to work with. It does light up enough to where you can see the buttons in the dark, but it's not overly bright. The sound on it was perfect. There was no issues with it. So this is an option. And there's many like this. Again, this is just one with the Rockford Fosgate name on it, but, there's many of them. So you could run something like that. Now, back in the past, this has been the go-to thing. Well, why were these things so big? And the reason is you need to be able to get a CD in here. You needed a room for that compact disc to spin. Other than that, the electronics have all shrunk. Because pretty much everything that's in there is, in here, with the exception of a tuner, and this could totally have a tuner in it. There wouldn't be any more room. It doesn't take any room. You also needed an amplifier because, you had speaker level outputs. So you had an amplifier in here. We don't need that anymore either. But there is one more alternative, or at least an addendum to what I'm already talking about. So you can use a tablet to do your interface. I have one, but it's not. It is. You know what a tablet is. So let's say you've got a system like this, or like this, right? Set up, and you use a tablet as your head unit. Now, tablet obviously does all the things that a phone will do, except for maybe make a phone call. So that's all understood. But there are some tricks you can do with a phone or a tablet to make it more head unit like. One of those things you can do is download a few different apps. One will turn your tablet into an interface for a stereo. It gives you all the normal appearance of a head unit. And I ran a tablet as my head unit for a couple of years in my Tahoe. And there's a couple of advantages of using a tablet. One is the tablet can be connected to the internet all the time, like a cell phone can. So you always have your music and your playlist is right there on your tablet. You don't have to connect your phone when you get in. It's just connected already. Using that type of setup, you can use an app to make it act like a head unit. You can go into the settings and set it so that whenever it receives a charging signal on the charging port, that it powers the screen up and turns it on or wakes it up. So you can set it up to do this where when you turn the key on, the screen pops up and everything's ready to go. Turn the key off after a few minutes, it turns back off. Make it work like a head unit, right? The downside, of course, of that is it doesn't charge while it's turned off. And if you have it hooked up to where it charges all the time, then it doesn't know when the key's on. So you kind of have give and take. Having said that, I ran mine in that situation where it charged when the key was on and then it stopped charging when the key was off for a long time. And the battery tends to hold up fine because when it goes to sleep, it turns most of the systems off. So if you're driving a vehicle on a regular day-to-day basis, that'll work totally fine. The amount of time it gets charged while you're going from point A to point B will be totally fine to keep it up and running. However, if you're going to do that, I suggest you have a second dongle hanging by somewhere close by where occasionally you can unplug that one and plug in one that stays plugged in all the time and let it fill all the way up if it happens to get low. The point is, though, having it have its own internet connection, you have all your music at your fingertips and it's always ready to go. You can also watch movies and videos and all that kind of cool stuff when you're sitting still. Okay, so that's a plus. You can also mirrorcast that to something bigger, or there's so many options, right? There's just so many options for using a setup like that. If you've got one and you want to do something like this, I highly suggest that you get on the internet and go look for a cable called an OTG cable, on the go or OTG. And what that does is allows you to have a USB type C or whatever it is to plug into here. And the output will be a USB type C and a headphone jack. You can also do two USB type Cs coming out. And why? Because simple. You may want to plug in a charge and also want to plug in a USB plug. So you can put a dongle on that. Or you may want to plug in a charge and plug in a wired output. So you can run an aux cable out and split it into RCAs and onto your equipment. Hardwiring it. Most of your DSPs today and a lot of amplifiers have a Bluetooth connection, so you can literally put this thing on your dash and plug in power to it, and it would communicate with all the rest of your stuff via Bluetooth. So you don't even need to run RCA wires or anything, which cleans up your signal path. No engine noises. So there's tons and tons and tons of options as far as how to get those wonderful, juicy songs, movies, and other crazy things out to your ear holes through your electrical system. The options are basically limited only by your budget, and not even that so much as your imagination. So don't be caught up in a rabbit hole or in a box when it comes time to figure out how you're going to get your music into your system, because man, there's a ton of different options. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this content. If you did, please hit the subscribe button. And I did receive some requests in the past for people interested in me consulting with them on car audio projects. If you're interested in me doing that for you, I don't really have a price bracket. I do have a link down below. Just contact me through my email, and I work for donations. So if you decide you want to donate a little bit to me to help me helping you out, spending the time, you can do that through the links down below. And up to then, I just try to help everybody. So if you just need to talk, ask me a few questions in the email, I'll do what I can to answer those questions. If I can't answer those questions, I'll even try to find someone who can answer those questions and get that information for you. All of this, of course, is totally free. But if you feel the need to repay me for the kindness and the time that I take to do these things, you need, go down there below and head over to my whatchamacallit and just give me a donation or give me a monthly subscription. $5 a month, $10 a month. Ain't much to you, but it's a world of difference to me. Anyway, guys, peace.